Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Moore.
Nice to see you. Welcome to Tell the Truth. You know, people in the balcony never get a break on this show. So, you ready up in the balcony? Hey! No, I wouldn't do that to you. I'll put that down there. I got a surprise recently. I found out that according to a recent survey, America's favorite dessert is apple pie, which is what I was giving out in the audience. I'd always thought it was ice cream, but it's not. It is apple pie. And among pie connoisseurs, the name Penelope, Penelope's Pies, is like sterling on silver. If you get a Penelope pie, you have got a real piece of pie. Now, a little later on here, we're going to meet Penelope, who has baked over 100,000 of these pies. And what do you say we say hello to the panel first, though? Here we go.
Bill Cullen, Peggy Cass, Orson Meade, and Kitty Carlisle.
I thought that was all for me.
Help yourself. You got a piece of Penelope pie in front of you. Ever heard of Penelope pie?
No.
She's a model.
Oh, boy, known all over the country. I'm going to take a little bite myself. Excuse me, friends. I know this is not polite, but, you know, you don't get too many chances.
It's delicious.
Oh, yummy.
Got any coffee?
Isn't that melting in your mouth good? You like that? Well, these apple pies that we handed out in the audience and that we're eating here were baked by a little old chef who has turned out almost 100,000 of them. So what do you say that we meet Penelope right now?
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Penelope.
Number two.
My name is Penelope.
Number three.
My name is Penelope.
A likely story indeed. In any event, here is Penelope's story. I, Penelope, make the world's best apple pie. My recipe is a special secret, one that has been used by my family for almost 130 years. I personally have had lots of experience baking apple pies. Over the years, I have overseen the baking of almost 100,000 flaky-crusted, juicy, melt-in-your-mouth, all-American apple pies. I am such a professional in the pie baking world that I am no longer allowed to compete in pie baking contests. It's considered unfair to the rest of the world. Although it is my own special recipe, I'm not selfish about it. I have given instructions to thousands of people in the art of baking apple pie. But since my pupils have dealt with me by mail, my appearance today will be a bit of a surprise. Although I operate under the rather unmasculine name of Penelope, my real name is William Sedzik. Signed, William Sedzik. And I don't know what the rest of you are going to be doing out there for the next couple of minutes, but I'm going to be enjoying myself. Go. Now, let's keep in mind that all three of these vigorous-looking gentlemen claim to own and operate Penelope's Pantry, apple pie emporium extraordinaire. And why don't we start with Orson?
Thank you, Gary. I've always wondered about products like Mother Farnsworth's knishes. And you go to the factory, Mother Farnsworth is sitting there picking his teeth in a filthy T-shirt. Number two, do you turn these out professionally, or is this just out of the goodness of your...
Well, I used to a long time ago, but then it got to be such a great piece of pie that I couldn't go professionally in it anymore because it'd be unfair. So I just do it for myself.
Number three, does anyone turn out your Penelope pies?
No.
Number one, what happens? Like, what are you going to do with these Penelope pies? Throw them at the audience, or why do you make so many?
Well, I was asked to bake 26 to bring them on the show.
Well, what normally do you do? Do you just turn out pies for your friends and neighbors, or...
No.
What do you do, number one? You can
No,
tell me.
I just bake for myself and sell the recipe.
I see. Number three, do you sell the recipe as well?
Oh, yes, of course. And I also lecture at colleges.
I see. What keeps your pies from being soggy? Most pies are
Hey,
soggy.
that's a good question.
I'll follow along.
All right, you follow on that,
What
Kitty.
keeps your pies from being soggy, number three?
Well, it's the process of making them.
I see. And number two, do you believe that you mustn't handle the crust too much, otherwise it'll get hard?
That's true. The least amount of use with the hands is...
And number one, why is your name Penelope, dear Mr. Sedich?
Well, that was a very distant cousin of mine back in the 1840s, and I associated that name with the pie.
Oh, and number two, do you have a mail order business then?
That's right.
I see. Number three, what else do you do?
That's all.
You only
I'm
make
retired.
apple pie? No other kind?
Well, I concentrate on that, on the business. I have a mail order business.
But you also make other flavors, don't you?
Yes, but I concentrate on apple pies. That's the subject.
But the apple pie is the best.
That's right.
This is great. Number two, how did you get into this?
Well, this is an old family recipe that was handed down for many years.
But surely you weren't a baker to begin with.
No, I learned from my father and my grandfather.
Thanks, Kitty. Bill Cullen, what do you want to know?
Well, I'm not quite sure. Number one, they mentioned the mail order business was mentioned. Does that apply to you too, sir, number one?
Yes, I sell the recipe through the mail.
In other words, you do not take orders for the pie through the mail, number one.
No, I don't bake pies today.
Number two, in other words, if one wants this recipe, does it also apply to you? One just sends you an amount of money and you send them the recipe? Is that the idea?
That's right.
And you don't bake pies for anybody's order either?
No, for myself.
Number three, do you, sir, just to get that straight?
No, just for personal
Right.
things like this.
Number one, have you ever thought of the franchise business? There's a great deal of that going on now. Do you know what the franchise business is as far as
Yes,
retail
I do.
stores? How does it apply to you? What have you decided?
Well, it doesn't apply to me at all because I've never given the recipe out. My recipe isn't in any cookbooks or anything like that.
Number three, now there aren't many men, and I don't imagine of you there is anyone up there except the real one who knows. How do you go about, number three, broadly, not your recipe, don't give me any secrets, but how do you go about just making plain, ordinary pie crust?
Well, you have to mix the flour, and I use unbleached flour and water.
Give it away.
Yeah.
Okay, Piggy.
Number one, if nobody has your recipe, then what do you sell them, a phony recipe? I mean,
I beg your pardon?
well, when people buy your recipe, do you give them the real recipe?
Oh, I give them a detailed recipe.
How much does it cost?
$1.
Oh, gee. Number three, do you use lard?
Lard?
Yeah?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I knew it was lard. It tastes like lard.
What's the difference between lard and lard?
You what? No, but, you know, the best pie crust is, it's got lard in it. All right. You want me to talk fancy? Number two, do you chill it before you roll it?
No, never.
You don't?
You chill it.
Number one, do you use a tin pie plate?
No, I use a regular 9-inch pie plate and the regulation size.
Yeah, but made of what? Not glass.
I generally use the glass, Pyrex.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I always use Pyrex.
Because it's so nice and brown. Oh, well.
Some more questions?
No, I've got loads. Number three, do you brush the top crust?
What's that?
Do you brush the top crust?
No, not necessary.
Thank you.
Dust them off every now and then, and that's the way it goes. Okay, we've had all the questions we were allowed. We're going to have to vote. We're going to have to take our little ballots, try not to spill any pie on them, and mark them for number one, or number two, or number three. $50 is the penalty for each wrong vote, $500 in the unlikely event that all the votes are wrong. And Orson, have you made a decision?
I have indeed, Gary. I think any one of these three gentlemen could be kindly Mother Penelope. However, I picked number one because he has the hard, flinty eyes of a businessman who can parlay this thing into $1 million.
I hope so. Kitty?
He's got a very cute chef's hat on his ballot. I voted for number one because he was rather crusty.
Oh.
I never did it before, and I'm sorry.
Never do it again?
About his answer, when he said, I baked them today, and pies are the subject.
I'm
Okay, thank you, Bennett. Let's go to Bill.
See, I was disconcerted, Gary. I didn't really get all the answers because all the time I was questioning, Peggy was eating my pie, which is now gone along with hers the minute I took my eyes off. Anyway, number 2 was so firm about you don't chill it before you roll it, whatever that is. But anyway, for that reason, I voted for number 2.
That's interesting, Bill.
And Peggy.
I don't chill it before I roll it either.
Well, I'll be
I
fine.
voted for number 3 because everybody knows that in 1840 they used lard, and it's still the best thing to use.
What did they use?
Lad. Lad is what they use. All right, it's 2 for 1 and 1 for 2 and 1 for 3. And will the real William J. Sedzik please stand up? There you go. Thank you, Mr. Sedzik. Let's check out your imposters. Number 2, you got 1 wrong vote. What is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Len Scott, and I'm with National Airlines.
Hey. Fly where you often. Number 3, what is your real name, sir? What do you do?
My name is Jack Willis, and I sailed for years for the National Maritime Union as a masseur aboard the luxury liners, and I'm now retired and have my own private clientele.
Good deal. Mr. Sedzik, I don't think I've ever in my life heard before of anybody selling recipes. I mean, a single recipe. How do you do this? Through magazines?
Yes, I use the New York Times, using the Philadelphia papers and things like that.
What does the ad say? I want to know how to make an apple pie? Or?
No, it just says famous recipe. And then it's got the word apple pie, and then I give them a little...
Boy, at a
You
buck...
sell a lot of them?
Yeah.
A lot of recipes? How many recipes you sell a year?
Well, quite a few.
15, 20?
He ain't going to tell you nothing. Thank you, William Sedzik and friends, for being here with us on To Tell the Truth. Take care. Now, this next one is a real dilly. You know, it used to be that when a couple wanted to get married, they either tied the knot at their local church or their local temple, or they dashed down to City Hall. Our next guest is a bride who had a most unusual wedding ceremony, and we'll meet her in just a moment if you'll come back. And now let's meet our most unusual bride.
Number 1, what is your name, please?
My name is Irene Lucia.
Number 2.
My name is Irene Lucia.
Number 3.
My name is Irene Lucia.
Okay, here's Irene's story. I, Irene Lucia, had planned a lovely wedding. My fiancé and I were going to be married on the island of St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. However, when we set out for St. Thomas, our plans became more and more complicated. Airline flights were booked solid, and we discovered that there would be a too long wait between the time we were issued a license and the time that the ceremony could be performed. So we then tried Puerto Rico, but things were equally complicated there. Then we remembered that captains of ships at sea could marry people. Unfortunately, we weren't going by boat, but by plane. But we made inquiries anyway and finally solved our problem. With a fellow passenger as bridesmaid, we were married by the captain of a Pan American clipper some 35,000 feet in the air. The first jet-wed couple in history. Signed, Irene Lucia. And Bill Cullen, you've owned many a plane. I doubt if you've ever married anybody in one, but...
No, fortunately, I did everything else, Gary, but I never did get married. My goodness, a seven-mile-high marriage ceremony is an exciting thing. Number 3, you had to have a license from... where was the license issued, number 3?
We had the license on board the flight.
I mean, where did you get your license? What country or state gave it?
In New York.
In New York.
Yes.
Number 1, how long did it take the captain of this jet to perform the ceremony?
Oh, just about a minute or 2.
Number 2, while he was performing the ceremony, who was flying the airplane?
The co-pilot.
Number 3, did you ever think of being married by an automatic pilot? That can be a great deal. How long was this wait in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands, number 1, that made it impossible for you to do the waiting?
About 4 hours, but it was New Year's Day and everything was closed.
Oh, you, number 3, am I correct in assuming that you just couldn't get anyone in St. Thomas to perform the ceremony for you?
Because it was a holiday, and everything was closed.
Number 3, is a marriage valid, performed by a captain at sea? Oops.
Yes. Answer there is yes, and let's go to Peggy.
Thank you. Did Pan Am give you champagne after you got married? Number 1.
No, they didn't have any champagne on the flight, but they gave us gin slings.
Oh, that was nice. Number 2, couldn't you have planned ahead a little better? I mean, did anybody warn you that they don't marry people in the Virgin Islands on a holiday?
Well, we tried to leave on the 22nd, but our travel agent had difficulty arranging the flight. We wound up leaving on Christmas, and we wanted to get married the following day on the 26th. We didn't know it was Boxing Day. You see,
Oh, well, number 3, what date were you actually married on?
We were actually married on New Year's Day.
Oh, I see.
Right before 12.
Number 1, did you clear it at Pan Am in Puerto Rico before you did it, or did you just go up to the captain during the trip and say, hey, I want to get married?
Well, we spoke to Pan Am in Puerto Rico, and they said it's never been done before, but go ahead and ask the pilot if he'll do it. It's up to him.
Did he have the...
Okay, Peg. Thank you. Orson?
Well, I'm trying to find out, number 3, what was the hurry? I mean, why were you trying to save money on the room, or what? Why such a big deal hurry? Number, I think it's very romantic, but...
We just thought it would be romantic.
Yeah. I assume it's never been done. Do you know if it's legal?
It was the first in history, and we
Is it legal?
Yes, we consulted our lawyer.
Afterwards?
Yes.
Oh, meanwhile, you might have had 2 or 3 bad days in the middle there. I don't want to go into the details, sir. No, certainly not. Number 1, what was the reaction of the passengers sitting around you? Were you married in the aisle?
We were married in the front of the plane, and actually at first the passengers were getting very nervous because we kept passing notes up to the pilot, and he thought he was going to be hijacked.
Did they let you use the smoking lounge or the rest of the way in the trip, or did you just have to go back and sit in your seats like normal?
We sat in our seat.
Oh, I see. I thought maybe they'd make special arrangements. Thank you. Number 2.
Thank you, Orson. Let's get to Kitty Carlisle.
Well, I'm fascinated by the physical arrangements. You were married in the cockpit of this plane? Number 2?
Yes. No, well, the pilot stood with his back to the cockpit.
I see.
We were actually in
Number
the plane.
3, who were your witnesses?
Our witnesses was a lady that was sitting next to us.
Oh,
she was their bridesmaid.
I see. And I see. And number 1, what constitutes the captain of a ship? Now, for instance, it turns out that Bill Cullen, his own planes, could he marry you in his own plane if he were piloting it? He would then be the captain of the plane.
If he's over international waters, 12 miles out at sea.
He could marry you.
My plane wouldn't go that far.
You have a whole new career. Number 2, after you got married and you came back and sat in your seats, what did the other passengers do?
Well, they applauded, and they were very gay. It was just like a party.
How wonderful.
Sounds great. I wish I'd been there.
Yeah, I do too.
Only trouble is now everybody's going to be wanting to do that. You know, you've created a terrible precedent. Let's find out about this. Let's all vote for who we think it is. Do we think it's number 1? Or do we think it's number 2? Or do we think it's number 3? Number 3, somebody in the audience says. How about you at home? It costs you $50 for each wrong think. It costs you $500 if all the thinks are wrong. And, Bill, you got a big smile on your face. You look like you're certain.
No, I'm just thinking about the competition among the airlines is so great now, the food and the service, and now free marriages is not a bad thing for them to offer because a captain can knock off 2, 3 in a flight, you know, without even... Number 2, I don't think it could be because she mentioned Boxing Day, and at St. Thomas and Puerto Rico are both American areas, and Boxing Day is British, so I plain guessed number 1 because she looks like the kind of a girl who would think of something like that, and you got to watch that kind.
There's 1 for 1. And Peggy, what do you say?
Gee, I was in Jamaica and they celebrated Boxing Day, so I voted for 2. She looks very put together and kind of romantic, and I think she'd pick it up.
Okay, Orson?
I think she looks put together, too, but I voted for 3 because she is very shy and demure and seems unlikely to have done such a thing. And I find in life that the unlikeliest people do things, like look at us 4 lots sitting up here. Who would pay us money for this?
Yeah, who indeed?
A motley group, I should say. Kitty?
I voted for number 1 because she said that anybody can marry you who's piloting a plane if it's 12 miles out to sea over international waters. And that sounds like somebody who's really found out about it.
All right. Now, the votes are all in, and who better to come out and to absolutely come out and identify his bride than the young fellow who married her. Bob Lucia, are you there? Come pick out your bride. Which one is it? He's not sure. There you go. Good-looking couple. Let's find out about number two. Number two, what is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Laura Taylor, and I'm a singing waitress at Bud Friedman's Improvisation, a theatrical restaurant.
Great. Number three, what is your real name, please, and what do you do?
My name is Bridget Vance, and I work as a saleswoman at Mickey Allen's Showboat in Jamaica, and we cater for weddings.
Mr. and Mrs. Lucia, when you got back, just for safety purposes, did you have to get remarried in a more conventional way or not?
Well, our lawyer advised it only because of Social Security. So we'll say within 20 years, if either one of us died, it might be very tough making a claim on the wedding license issued by the captain. So he said, secretly go off to New York and get married again, and you'll have...
And so you did, huh?
So we did. So we're married twice, so we're very much married.
You are indeed. And thank you very much, and imposters, for being with us on To Tell the Truth. There you go. I just discovered a new racket. I frequently sail further out than 12 miles. I could marry people on my boat, couldn't I? That's what I'll be doing all summer. Friends, send in your application. See you tomorrow.
Promotional consideration provided by American Airlines. Traveling on business or traveling for fun, it's good to know you're on American Airlines. Hotel accommodations, courtesy of Delmonico's Hotel on fashionable Park Avenue, ideal for gracious living. Visit famous Delmonico's restaurant for superb continental cuisine. This is Johnny Olson speaking for To Tell the Truth, the Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production.
On Game Show Network, anyone can win terrific prizes like this. The Beam Central Cleaning System. No heavy vacuum to lug. Fast, easy cleaning for every surface in your home from floor to ceiling from Beam.